Hi guys, so I'm just going to walk you through installing, running and testing my Express RESTful API service that I've built as part of WEB701 Milestone 2. So first thing you're going to want to do is go to my GitHub repository. There's a link to this, of course, in the report, so you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. In the GitHub repository, there's a pretty extensive README here, as you can see, that's basically going to walk you through all the steps that I'm going to walk you through. And there's a little bit of an overview of what it is, how it's intended to be used. As this is going to be used, and this is quite important, it needs to be up and running before we try and run any of our front-end client prototypes, because those prototypes, part of their functionality is that they all implement an API call, which is one of these routes here in our Express server. Okay, so you'll client or download or fork even a copy, get a copy down onto your local device essentially. Once you have that, you'll need to, of course, have a couple of things installed to match my testing environment. So MySQL Workbench, because we're dealing with a MySQL database, and you're going to need some form of REST client from REST API client for testing the calls. If you just try and call some of these routes just from a browser, it will not run, I believe, a patch or a delete. It'll just actually fire back a GET request, which of course will not work. So some form of REST client is the way to go. So basically, once we have grabbed a copy onto our local device via GitHub, then we're going to open the SQL file in the database script folder, which is, here's our database script. Here's our MySQL file. So essentially you want to open this up and you just want to Control A, select everything in it, and then go into MySQL. You want to create yourself a new query tab and then just paste all of that SQL script into there. Now I've already got it open here in fact, so I won't worry about doing that. So you can see it's a reasonably extensive SQL file there. We've got various stuff going on. There's some instructions on how to run this if there's ever any doubt, but it's actually super simple. I'll show you in just a moment. As you can see, it's reasonably substantial. It's mainly just insert statements there with dummy data, so nothing too exciting. Okay, so basically you just want to click in here, Control A, literally select everything in this, and then just run it. By clicking that lightning icon, you'll see everything's executed with no issues. And if we refresh, we've got our Got Apples database, which is the database we're using. So you can open that up, see the table structure, everything's there that we need. We're mainly going to be working in the user table here, so we'll have this just kind of open for testing. Now, once you've actually got that running, you can just minimize that for a moment. Just going to reorganize my screens slightly. Okay, so we'll just jump back to the README there so I can walk through that. Okay, so we've got our MySQL database running in MySQL. Happy days. Now we want to open up a code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code. I kind of recommend you do too. It's very easy. If you're not using VS Code, then please use something that has an editor terminal. That's just going to make life much easier for you. Okay, so here's our Visual Studio Code. Now you want to open the folder that is that you've essentially got from GitHub. So here's mine here. No, sorry, here's mine here. That's just my workspace there. Okay, so we're going to open it up. Now, essentially, everything's just happening on the app.js file. You'll see we don't have lots going on here. There's a defunct form, but everything's basically happening in app.js. So I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. You can follow it through in the report, and if needed, I'm happy to do another video or a walkthrough of the tutor, but there is some editing needed in the code just to get this running on your local device. So this database connection configuration, this is specific to my copy of MySQL, my MySQL instance on my device, so you may need to change your user or your password. The database should remain the same. I suspect the port and local host will, but those will potentially be different on your device. So just change them to match your local one and save just, change it, save it, happy days. Now, to get this up and running, you just want to use the following command line, nodeman app.js. Essentially, we're going to run app.js through node mon, not node man. Okay, and as you can see, we've got a little bit of feedback from our terminal there. Everything's running happily. And this will actually give us a little bit of feedback. But for now, we basically know on port 333, our Express server is running, and we can just test that really quickly and easily by just going localhost. And here we go, we just get a little message telling us that this is indeed a RESTful API service and it's running. Okay, happy days, jump back out of there. Now, so this is Insomnia, this is my REST client, and this is how I can essentially test all the API routes that I have in my service. And as you can see, we're just literally walking our way through these instructions here in this README, so you can always refer back to this one. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to literally copy and paste this URL. This is to demonstrate that I am getting all users from my database. You can see I've got my get method selected, running that. I fire it. Here we go. This is all the JSON data that we're returning from our route on the Express server. And you can see if we just jump to MySQL, have a quick look, user, and we'll just grab our user data here. And you can see that everything matches up. So for example, there I am in my own database. And you'll see there I am coming back from this request. So and you'll be doing a little bit of this jumping between your REST client and your database just to see the changes as they kind of come through. Okay, so we can get all of our users based on that route. On this route, I'm literally just getting a singular user based on that username that I'm passing in there. Boom, there we go. So I've just pulled myself in. Now I've got a little test method here that's essentially going to post a new user into my database. There's a gentleman called Bob Boucher from Bob's Burgers. Okay, so we'll change our route, and you're also going to need to change the method that you're using. So you want to change it to post to match my name on the URL there. Boom. Now we don't return anything, but what you'll see, so here are my users, and if I just run this again to refresh it, you'll see that Bob Belcher has been added to the MySQL database. So that has run, that's as we want it to be. Okay, so next, yes, so the next URL here, essentially I'm going to update the new user Bob Belcher that I've just added. I'm just going to change his name to something else for a little bit of fun. So we'll change our method to patch using a patch, and then we send. Again, we're not returning anything on this, but we can see it's run okay. And if I jump in here, so we've got Bob Belcher, first name, last name. So if I refresh, Bob Belcher has become Burger Master. So that's run as we expect. It's updated the database there. So if I jump back out, okay. Now, if we want to actually get rid of a user, we've got a route for that. So we're just going to copy and paste that one back in. Again, similarly, you can see we're just using the username there. We'll just change our method to delete. Run that fella, and you can see again it's run. I haven't returned anything, but I've definitely run my route there. And again, if I just refresh, you can see that Bob Belcher or Burgermaster is gone out of my user table here. So that's all covered. Okay, so also had, sorry, we're just going to open up, I believe it was the auction table. Got a Cool, so here's our auctions. We've got 13 auctions in our table. So the next route that we're running is just creating a new auction. This is just intended to demonstrate the functionality of one of the use cases. A user can create an auction. So if we just pop that into our URL there, change that to a post to match my URL naming, send that. We've got a confirmation there. We know that's okay. So we'll just have a wee look. Got 13 there. I just refresh and we've got 14, and we can see that test auction is this new auction that's just been added for a proof of concept that we can add auctions to the database through the Express RESTful API service. So I'm just going to minimize that. Now this one is a little bit more tricky. This is actually the only route that I'm using where I'm actually calling a stored procedure in my database from my Express RESTful API service, and I'm passing it in a username and a password for authentication, and essentially a procedure in the database, which we can look at. It's right down the bottom there. Whoops. A user login procedure exists here, and I'll let you have a closer look at that if you so desire. You'll have the file, of course. But essentially, it's just going to count through the user and find a password username match. If it does find that password username match, it's going to return a login accepted message to us. If it does not find a match, then it's going to return a login failed message. So this actually exists in the database. So this one will return a login succeeded. So if I just pop that in there, change my method to a get, send it, and you can see we're returning a message login succeeded. Now if I just run a URL that has a slight difference, oh yep, I've just taken a number or a letter out of the username there. If I send that, login failed. So you can see that bounces. And again, if I try and do the same thing here with a incorrect password but a correct username, I should get exactly the same result, login failed. So yeah, essentially that basically sums up the functionality of the server at this stage. Quite cool, really enjoyed playing with it, and might sort of build it out some more in my free time if I get a chance. But yeah, if you have any questions or queries trying to run this, of course, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm sure you can track me down. Awesome, enjoy.